Hello, everybody, and happy Easter! My goodness, I miss you so much, and it does feel strange to not be able to spend this special holiday with you in person as we usually get to do. But because it's the safe thing to stay home, that's what we're going to do, and that doesn't mean we can't embrace the beautiful gifts God has given us by enjoying the spring weather and this time together. So, I am going to try my best to bring the Easter workshop activities to you so you can participate from home. So this video will include music, stories, scripture, and activities that you and your families can do together. So let's get started. Let's begin with music. I thought really hard about what song would be best suited for the special circumstances that we are under this Easter holiday. And there's a song we learned last year that I personally used in moments when I was afraid or I felt uncertain about what was happening next. And it was called Do Not Be Afraid. So for those of you who remember it, feel free to sing with me on the first time. And for those of you who are just learning it now, it's super easy, it's super powerful, and it's super fun. So, here we go. Do not be afraid. God is with you. Everywhere you go, God is there. Do not be afraid. God is with you. Everywhere you go, God is there. Now, I want you to make it your own. Last year we were able to do a do not be afraid, God is with you. We got to come up with movements. You made it to your own and it was beautiful, so feel free to do that again. Anything you feel, if you want to dance to it, if you want to sway to it, whatever you want to do. Let's sing it together. Do not be afraid, God is with you, everywhere you go. God is there, do not be afraid, God is with you, everywhere you go. God is there. Oh, I bet you sounded so beautiful. Thank you for singing with me. Let's take a moment and now watch Miss Jane share with us some very important scriptures that have a lot to do with the story we're going to read and Easter as a whole.
Good morning, everyone. It's so nice to see you again. Our scripture reading today, Easter Sunday, are from the book of Matthew and the book of John in our Bibles. The first scripture reading from Matthew is when the angel speaks to the women at the tomb after they find that Jesus is not in the tomb. As you listen to this, try to think about how you would feel if the angel said this to you. Would you be afraid? Would you be surprised? Happy? Would you wonder where Jesus really was? From Matthew 28, verse 6. He is not here. He has risen, just as he said. Come and see the place where he lay. The second reading is from John, is when one of the disciples, Thomas, doesn't believe that Jesus rose from the dead. Jesus sees Thomas and speaks to him and tells him to touch him. As you listen, try to think of how you would feel if you saw Jesus and you touched him. From John 20, verse 27. Then he said to Thomas, "Put your finger here. See my hands. Reach out your hand and put it into my side. Stop doubting and believe." We know that when the women finally saw Jesus, and when Thomas saw Jesus and touched him, that indeed Jesus had risen from the dead. We also know that even though we cannot actually see Jesus today, we know that he lives in our hearts. That is why today, Easter Day, we can say, "The Lord is risen. The Lord is risen indeed." Stay well and have a happy Easter to all of you.
And now it is story time. Last week we talked about what it was like when Jesus entered Jerusalem on Palm Sunday. And then we talked about a way that you can create a prayer space at home for you to go and be alone and think, much like Jesus did in the garden. Now, if you've been following along with Pastor Lynette's emails regarding Journey to the Cross, you'll see a lot of events took place before Easter Sunday came around. And one of the events that took place was when they took Jesus and put him on the cross, and because of the unkind treatment that was given to him, he passed away. And when Jesus passed away on the cross, a lot of the people that followed him and loved him were very sad. They had felt all hope was lost, and that's where the story ended. But we know that is not where the story ends. So if you'd like to open up your first Bible stories to page 370, and if you don't have this book, don't worry, we'll share and we'll all read together. The tomb. Later that day, Joseph from Arimathea arrived. He was a follower of Jesus and had permission from Pilate to take Jesus' body away for burial. Joseph and Nicodemus prepared Jesus' body according to Jewish custom. They wrapped it in fine linen and special spices and took it to a tomb that had just been dug out of the rock. Mary Magdalene and some of the other women watched as a large stone was rolled across the entrance and the tomb was sealed. The next day was the Jewish Sabbath, and the Jews asked Pilate to have the tomb be guarded. They remembered only too well what Jesus had said about rising from the dead. So, if you look at the picture, this is the tomb. So they wanted to put his body in there. This is his body wrapped in linen. This is the guard, and then this is the rock that they used to seal the tomb. Next page. At sunrise on Sunday, Mary Magdalene and some women returned to the tomb. When they reached it, they found that the stone covering the entrance had been rolled back, and the guards had disappeared. Inside, the women found an angel. Do you see that? So where Jesus' body was, there is now an angel. Do not be afraid. Remember that from our song? Do not be afraid, said the angel. Jesus is not here. He is risen from the dead. Look, this is where his body was. Go and tell his disciples the good news. You will see him soon in Galilee, just as he promised. The women, filled with fear and happiness, ran back to the disciples. Now, I feel the women might have been filled with both fear and happiness, because when things are unknown, when things are new, sometimes you can have fear. Like, your first day at school, or your first day on a new sports team, or in a musical theater class. It's your first time doing something. It's your first time experiencing it. It could be a little scary, just like it was the first time Mary Magdalene and these women had experienced anything like this. And I believe their happiness came from the hope that was restored that Jesus was back. On hearing the news, John and Peter ran to the tomb and saw the burial cloths lying there. They believed what had been said to them and hurried away, leaving Mary Magdalene weeping by the entrance. And when somebody's weeping, that means they're crying. Then a voice asked her, "Why are you crying?" Mary thought that it must be the gardener. "Sir, if you've taken my Lord, please tell me where to find him," she said, "and I will go and take him away." "Mary," came the reply. It was Jesus. She was overjoyed. "Go and tell my friends you have seen me," Jesus told her. See, this was John and Peter, and now this is Jesus with Mary Magdalene, who was overjoyed, which means super duper duper happy to see Jesus. So although Jesus' followers and those who loved him were super duper happy to see him and know that he was back, some people remained doubtful, and having doubts is okay. That's when we're supposed to be curious and ask questions, so never be afraid to ask questions, and never be afraid to be curious, because that's how we get to discover new things, and miracles happen every day, just like they did on Easter. Let's talk about activities that you can do with your families at home. So, I just made an entire song out of that, didn't I? So I have sent an email with a bunch of links to coloring pages that you can do to celebrate this holiday. And if you're feeling extra crafty, you can do this. This is my hand. I traced it. And where my palm is, I wrote Easter 2020 because that is the year. And I wrote everything we did on Easter Sunday. So we were blessed to bake a lot of yummy treats, watch the Easter service online, and be together. So what I want you to do is trace your hand and document everything that you did with your families that made it such a fun and special holiday. And then where your fingers are, you can create little drawings. Now, you all are way better at drawing than I am, but I did my best. And I created an Easter egg, because there's a lot of those in my house right now, and a cookie to represent the yummy treats, a cross to represent the service we got to watch online as a family, smiley face because of all the joy that this holiday brings, and the fact that even though we can't be together, we all can still smile and be grateful for what we do have. And it says Sunday School Online, because one of the greatest gifts of all is to be able to be with you, even if it's virtual, and to share this holiday with you and your families. So, I also wanted to mention that Miss Gail had sent a message to pass on to you that she misses you guys so much. She hopes you continue to stay happy and healthy, and she hopes to see you in church when we get to be together physically again. So on behalf of myself, Miss Gail, Miss Laura, and Miss Jane, we love you. We hope you continue to stay well and stay safe and have a happy and blessed Easter. See you next week. Bye-bye.